Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to your very favorite Spider-Man podcast. Here comes the Spider-Cast. I am your co-host, Michael, and as always, I'm joined by
Joshua Mervell, and today we're going to be taking a look at Spidey comics from what month? It's March of 1985, correct?
That is correct. Yep, March 1985. Okay. You're right.
Huh.
Sometimes it gets a little lost. We do this every week.
And we should introduce our semi-regular cast here. We've expanded our permanent cast. First, we got G.I. Jolie.
Boo! Hiss!
Yeah!
And next, joining us because she has nothing better to do, Bex Luthor.
I have lots of things to do.
What an introduction.
I have to shower later.
Oh, wow.
Is it because the 48 hours are up?
Oh my god.
Just drag
Putting everybody
me.
on blast
Just
today.
drag
So
me
cool.
through the mud.
I'm only
that
basing it
I'm
on what
apparently
you
caked
told
with.
me.
That's the
All
only
right,
social
all right.
interaction I get all week.
All in good fun. Yeah, this is definitely pretty much the only social interaction I get as well. So you're in good company here.
Apparently not. I'm just getting razzed.
Okay, so anyway, this week we've got, because what's it called? Marvel Team Up has been canceled at this point.
Rip.
We only had 2 regular issues of Spidey, but we threw in a Spider-Man annual to fill it out, so we have 3 issues. So yeah, Josh, you could tell us about this amazing Spider-Man annual, especially about who the guest writer is.
Right. So normally I really don't like annuals.
Okay.
Usually they're just like long and overstuffed, and they bring in a bunch of characters because it's an annual, and it's
Right.
just like a big party where all of these Marvel characters are coming together just to be together in a comic and to sell an annual. But this one was actually very good.
Right.
And yes, the guest scripter is Stan Lee for this issue.
Stan the Man Lee, yes, co-creator of the Marvel Universe, with co-creator of Spider-Man with Steve Ditko, yes. So
Right.
everyone knows. I mean, he needs no introduction, right? So
Exactly. So yeah, this is a pretty good one. We are following Spider-Man as he's like stopping a bank robbery, and he swings over back to the Bugle to drop off some of the photos that he just took, and they're kind of all talking about the J. Jonah Jameson's wedding, and Peter is just hearing about this right now because he wasn't invited, so he's kind of a little upset about that. So as Spider-Man, he goes and swings into J. Jonah Jameson's penthouse and interrupts him and his wife and drops off flowers to congratulate him, and it's a pretty funny scene. So later on, we know that J. Jonah Jameson didn't invite his son to the wedding yet, and he's kind of nervous because they're a little bit estranged right now. Not really on good terms. I can't remember exactly what happened, but his son John was an astronaut, and I think something happened when he came back to Earth.
I don't really know. Yeah, I don't know what they're referring to. If it's like a recent story or an old story, I have no idea.
Right. Yeah, I think it was an accident, and something happened with his brain, and he's having some like memory issues and stuff like that. So he's in this like rehab facility where they can kind of monitor him and monitor his like moods and his memory and everything. So J. Jonah Jameson goes and visits him there and tells him the news, and John is like really upset. He's upset that he's gonna be like losing his dad even more, because JJ doesn't really come to visit him, so he thinks that this is even going to take him away even more than he already is. So we also see that the Scorpion is also in this facility. I guess this is also a prison. So he
it's a
escapes.
sanatorium, so yeah.
Yeah, we follow him and his escape, and it's actually a really fun scene where he breaks out and he sneaks down into the basement, and he uses this guy to lead him to his suit that's in a safe, and he cracks it open by just ripping it with his like raw strength, no suit at all. And he goes and he kidnaps JJ's son. And we catch up with JJ, and he gets back to the Bugle, and there's this party, like a congratulations party, I guess, happening for him. And that's when he gets the news that his son was kidnapped. So Spider-Man goes, Peter Parker hears this and goes to their apartment to see what's going on. And they're kind of talking about how the cops are there and they're there to protect them. And his wife goes back to, I think, the police department, or they're going to like another apartment to keep her safe and secret away from Scorpion, because Scorpion is after J. Jonah Jameson. But Spider-Man has this strange feeling that because most of the cops are with JJ, he's actually going to be going after his wife. So he leaves, and the Scorpion crawls through the sewer and breaks into the building and tries to kidnap his wife, and Spider-Man is there to stop him, and there's kind of this fight between them, and his wife gets injured, so Spider-Man grabs her and swings out, and there's kind of this like final confrontation on the on this rooftop. And Scorpion blasts a side of the building, and it's kind of crumbling down, and Spider-Man has to web it and hold it as to not kill anybody underneath the building. So he's kind of busy with that, while Scorpion has a confrontation with J. Jonah Jameson and his wife, and John also shows up and tries to stop him, and Scorpion grabs his wife and son and pretty much says, choose who you want to die. One will live, one will die, and he like offers himself up to die instead. Scorpion kind of teases him and says, I'm gonna kill you all anyways. And Spider-Man shows up and pretty much punches Scorpion out, and then we cut to the wedding, and JJ and his son have kind of made up, and we get a happy little ending with this issue.
So first, I mean, I definitely enjoyed it as well. This is probably the first Spider-Man story written by Stan Lee since maybe, I don't know what, 71, 72. I'm not sure exactly. I enjoyed all the narration. I definitely enjoyed the dialogue. Stan Lee is probably the best Spider-Man dialogue writer. However, my question is I don't know how appropriate or how much I enjoyed the fact that the whole issue was first-person narration, because that's not something that Stan Lee did back in the 60s. So I'm not sure why he chose to do that. Yeah,
it's very strange.
Right.
I was thinking that too throughout, and I wonder if because Spider-Man, like Stan Lee is so close with Spider-Man that it was more of like a personal story. So him coming back to write was like him putting the costume back on.
Right.
Exactly, like Stan himself kind of stepping back into the role of Spider-Man. So it in a weird way, it both felt like Stan and Spider-Man were narrating.
Right. Good point.
So, I thought that maybe at the end they were going to have like Peter telling this story to somebody.
Right. But they didn't.
But no, they didn't.
Yeah, that would have been nice. That would have been nice. Again, because of the Marvel method, it's possible that the whole story was plotted, the whole story was drawn, and then for some reason Stan Lee came and dialogued it, right? So we don't know exactly how it was put together. But yeah, so G.I. Joe, this is one of the first Stan Lee stories you've read, I assume. What did you think of the script in this issue?
I don't really keep track, but I read a lot of Stan Lee Fantastic Four, so it's not it isn't the first.
Okay.
Well, at least that I remember. I really liked this one. I remember sitting and reading it, and then sitting and looking through it again this afternoon and going, wow, this is like really good. Like this is the first time I read something where I'd actually be like, I'd hand it to somebody who is mildly interested in old. If they were like a kid and they're like, oh, I'd love to read an old Spider-Man story, I'd be like, this one's really fun. And I would hand them this. And I think might have something to do with the fact that the writing isn't just like a punch 'em all bad guy story.
Right.
It
right.
is for the most, like for part of it is, but it's not. It's about it has other characters written into it, and has a lot less of Peter Parker whining, a lot less. I didn't say zero, because there was definitely some of that Peter Parker flave, like that magic that he so often graces us with. But yeah, I really liked it.
Bex Luther, what did you think of this issue?
Absolute garbage. I don't know what you guys are talking about. I'm kidding. Oh my god. Could you imagine? No. So like I was reading this, I did read it today, and my partner, who wasn't we both didn't have work today. Not that I ever have work, but every so often I would put my phone over and be like, you gotta look at this panel, like it's so funny, or it's just, or whatever. Like I wanted to share it, and my partner loves Spider-Man, so I should always want to share the Spider-Man that I read, and oftentimes I don't. So for this one, it was a really fun read, and like Jolie was saying, it was very character heavy. It wasn't so much like bad guy, like the bad guy kidnaps a girl, and then Spider-Man punches him, and the day is saved, but it's so much more complex than that.
Right.
Like, you even have in the beginning, before like the story really takes place, you have some great like shots of Spider-Man stopping a helicopter from crashing in the middle of the street, and just like you could come into this issue and have never heard of any Spider-Man characters and be like, oh, he's a hero, and he will stop to save people no matter what. Like, you really get that essence of who he is. And then also when you go into the Bugle, you get the essence of exactly who everybody else is. Like, you get Robbie's kind of feel, you have Betty, you have even like the one-off characters. Like, I don't know who this one redheaded lady is, but like just through Peter's kind of mindset, he doesn't like her, and she seems like sassy.
Right.
And then it humanizes J. Jonah Jameson so much, this story. Like, he doesn't just hate Spider-Man and it's funny. And the scene where Spider-Man's like razzing him like Mike did to me at the beginning of the episode, it's so funny.
It's all in good fun, Becca.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. It's like he's just joking around with him because he was mad he didn't get invited to the wedding. Like, that's funny. Why would you want to go to the wedding, Peter? And then, I mean, anytime Spider-Man kisses a man, I'm here for it. Like, that's just top tier content for me.
That was hilarious. That was like Bugs Bunny hilarious.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot in these older Spider-Man comics. Not so much in modern Spider-Man, but in the older Spider-Man comics, they were completely unafraid to make him make like jokes about him being attracted to other men, like all the time, talking about like, oh, you gotta like ask me on a dinner date before you take me out to like bad guys and stuff like that. And I love that. I love how just so it doesn't matter. It's so like not even it's like a non-issue. I just enjoyed it, and the Scorpion is funny. He's a funny character, and like brutal in the fact that this guy is taking time out of his day to give him a cup of coffee in the newspaper and hold a cigarette so he can smoke it for him, and he still betrays him. Like, what a jerk.
Yeah,
well,
he's like evil.
Friends.
Yeah,
he was like evil in this issue.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
he kills this guy, right? Like
he kills a bunch of people.
He shoots him in like the back, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, and we like see his dead limp body later on. He's just like shooting cops left and right as he's breaking into the building. Yeah, he doesn't pull any punches in this one.
So yeah, we all agree then this story is great. I mean, again, we have to give a little bit of credit to Tom DeFalco, well, because he plotted it, but Stanley did do the dialogue, so he added an extra layer, I think, of subtext to it, and there was some laugh out loud moments in here. I wish I would have wrote them down, but there was definitely a few laugh out loud moments with Spidey's dialogue. Of course, I can't remember any of them, but they were really funny.
It was also pretty intense too. I mean, like the buildup of Scorpion tracking them down was really great. We see him like going through the sewers, and he's trying to track the building down that they're in through the sewers, and he crawls up through the sewer as to not alert Spider-Man, because Spider-Man has been searching the entire city for him and can't find him, and it's because he's underground. And there was a comment earlier on that I thought was such a weird detail, and it stuck in my head as I was reading it, as like, ugh, that, like, in my head I was like, they always put these weird details in that don't mean anything. And it was when the narration said something like Spider-Man swung up to J. Jonah Jameson's 46th floor penthouse, and I was like, you could have just said penthouse. You know what I mean? It's so strange. And then we see Scorpion, and we're thinking like, oh, he's after J. Jonah Jameson, and even like Peter's there listening to the conversation. They're saying it's going to be much safer for her to leave because Scorpion is after JJ. And then as Scorpion is crawling up the elevator, he stops on the 34th floor and said, "This is the one I want." And as he bursts through the door, we see that he's actually staring down JJ's wife and not him.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my God. It was such a weird thing, because I was like, wait, 34th floor? They just said earlier, they made a point of saying this, and then he burst through and it was her. So that genuinely caught me off guard.
Yeah, it was like Die Hard level, Mission Impossible, like twist them around intrigue. It was legit. I was like, oh snap. You knew he might do it, and you're like, nah. And then he does it, and it's like, yes! It's like action movie level good.
Right. And it's not like crazy clever, but I think that when you're reading it in a comic that's kind of like campy and fun like this, it makes it that much more, it feels more serious because it's a superhero story. Right. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed the writing and the attention to detail in this issue. The art is fantastic.
Yes.
It also helps that we're reading a really good scan of this week too. Like the quality of the scan is good, and it's like not a touched up version, so it feels like the actual comic.
Like an actual comic, right?
Yeah.
And we should point out the pencils are by Ron Frenz, who's the regular artist on Amazing Spider-Man, but the inks are by Jackson Guice or Guice, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, and Bob Layton, who Jolie and I met at the Motor City Comic Con, and he is most famous for his really long run, 2 long runs on Iron Man, and I thought that he really brought out, like, I don't know, the detail in this issue. Like, it's like we're used to seeing him inked by Joseph Rubinstein, but this issue, the art was a lot crisper, I thought.
Yeah,
definitely. Bex Luthor, did you notice the difference in the art at all?
Oh yeah, definitely. You can very, like, there was no question as to what was actually going on, and it's not so much like the character is doing this and there is a background. Some of it is like actually well thought out placement of art, and like there's a lot of other examples throughout, but like just at the end when like the very last panel when everyone's at, like, it's the wedding and you see Spider-Man, but it's Peter Parker, but half of him is Spider-Man. I was like, oh snap! I got so excited about that.
Yep. I love that stuff.
So there's the little things like the detail of making J. Jonah cry, the detail in like some scenes where there's no background, but they still draw, like when Scorpion and Spider-Man are tussling and like the boxes are like exploding all over them. Like you don't have to draw the background for that, but they want to know that like they're crashing through things or they're crashing through glass.
Good point.
Yeah, the sequence where they're fighting in the dark too is great.
Yes.
A lot of fun. Kind of piggybacking on what Becca was saying too, I really love when the artists will set up a scene and they'll show you where they are and everything and have like an establishing shot type of panel, and then the rest, they don't have to draw in every single detail for you to understand what's going on. You just automatically know where they are. And you can really feel that in like when they're in JJ's penthouse, you kind of you see like a wide shot of the room, and then we see later on like a close up of JJ and his wife, and behind them is like the window that Spider-Man is going to then later on jump through. So we don't have to have like crazy detail for every single panel. We can then cut to like solid color panels and focus on what's important in the scene.
Right.
And we don't have to like worry where everybody is. Like I think that the panel of like JJ and his wife kissing is really, one, is really well drawn, and two, because the background is blank, I think it's more impactful, and you can see that they're like passion in that moment. Right. Where if it was like busied and muddied with a background, it would be too much. And
good point.
That's a really big problem with, spoiler alert, I guess, for what we're going to be talking about later on. I think it's a really big problem with Spectacular. With the art is just a lot of the times there's just too much going on and it muddies what's happening. And I would have to go back and reread a lot of the stuff because I was just confused as to what the action was trying to say. So this is very clean and well thought out for sure for the storytelling.
And I just want to quickly mention, we've never really talked about this before, but Ron Frenz did go on to have a long run on Thor. He had a long run on Superman. And in the 2000s, he had a long run on Spider-Girl, which is awesome.
Oh,
which was
interesting.
Which was written by Tom DeFalco, which was, again, classic Marvel style. And then, I don't know what to be honest, in the last few years, the only thing I know he's done, he did an issue of Superman Beyond, which is a spin-off of Batman Beyond. And it was with Tom DeFalco, I believe, and it was great. So, yeah, he's still around. And he's another guy I met at the Motor City Comic Con in 1991, maybe. And he was a really nice guy. So just wanted to throw that out there. So I definitely recommend this issue. Josh, you recommend this issue?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. G.I. Jolie.
Yeah, I definitely do.
Right. Bex Luthor.
Yeah, no, I love it. Anytime Spider-Man kisses another dude, I'm here. I'm ready
Right.
for it.
But you know what? I do have to say... sorry if I cut in, but Scorpion doesn't look like a scorpion. Does that bother anybody else?
He should be like red, right? Are scorpions red?
I think some of them are red,
Yeah,
but mostly
red,
they're black.
Yeah.
They're definitely not green. Yeah, you're right. He doesn't look like a scorpion.
And it's a little phallic of a tail, not so much a scorpion tail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a weird design.
I've also always thought his face is weird, right? Like he has like a clear plastic mask over his mouth or something.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like it's a mask that's skin tight on his mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like a Power Ranger. It's molded to his face.
Yeah, maybe it's just like green face paint.
I don't know.
Just the bottom.
I think it's definitely a mask. I just don't know what
is,
Steve
yeah.
Ditko was thinking, like when he designed him. Weird.
So the mask is just full teeth bearing?
Yes.
Because
It looks like a balaclava, but like made out of spandex and green. Like a non-winter, definitely for crime.
I thought you were going to say for spring.
Definitely. It's the Scorpion Spring Collection.
It'll go really well with that hat that you got for your aunt or whatever.
They sell it right next to them at Macy's or wherever the hell he was at.
Yeah.
I think it was Macy's. But yeah,
Okay. Sorry. So we could talk about this all day, but we have 2 other comic books to review.
I guess.
Yeah.
Well, unless you want to keep on.
I'm cool with just talking about this one again.
Okay, sure. Let's review it again. All right. Josh,
All right, so
take it from
this
the top.
issue, we start off with Spider-Man. He stops a bank robbery.
And it's crazy because you think that that's what the story's going to be about, but actually it's about J. Jonah.
Yeah.
We just redo the whole episode, start over. Or you just cut that original part 3 times.
Right.
And see, and play a practical joke on our listener.
It's Groundhog Day.
Okay, but seriously, now we're gonna move on to a special issue of Amazing Spider-Man. This is a weird one because it has a photo cover, which we'll talk about later.
Who is this himbo? I am here.
Anyway, it's also a weird one because I don't know if Bob Layton was just like in the office that day, but this one is written and drawn by Bob Layton. I technically, therefore, it qualifies as a fill-in because it's not by Tom DeFalco and Ron Frenz, but it's one of those done-in-one fill-ins. But just so you guys know, there's going to be a lot of these fill-ins coming in the next few years. I don't know why, but that's just the case. So it's kind of an interesting time for Spidey. But anyway, written and drawn by Bob Layton, inked by Bob Layton and a guy named Garzon. I'm not sure his first name, sorry. But anyway, in this story, it's kind of cool. Peter Parker. We had a little bit of Spidey action, but the story basically opens with this kind of sleazy photographer who's also a pickpocket, who happens to be at an airport, the same airport that Peter Parker is at. Is it an airport?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an airport. Okay.
Sure.
And they're all traveling to see Nixon.
Right. Okay. And he goes and he's got this wallet that he just pickpocketed from this woman, and he wants to go somewhere private so that he can kind of rummage through it and take what he wants. And when he goes into this little closet or whatever it is, he comes upon Peter Parker changing into Spider-Man. And then instinctively he's like, "Oh, well, I've got this, camera around my neck." So he takes a picture of Spidey or Peter Parker half in costume, and he's like, "Oh no." So then Peter Parker's like, "Well, I got to get the camera back from this guy." So he starts to chase him, runs outside, realizes, "Oh no, I'm still in costume." So then he kind of hesitates. The guy gets a head start. He chases him through the airport, blah, blah, blah. Basically, it's a kind of like a quick action chase scene, but Spider-Man ends up losing him. So then we got this really interesting premise where this guy has a photo of Spider-Man with his mask off, so it's Peter Parker, but he doesn't know who Peter Parker is, and Peter Parker knows this guy's out there, but he doesn't know where he is. Okay, and so basically the issue is, here's the thing. The issue you think is going to be this huge thing about Peter Parker trying to use his detective skills to track down this guy, but actually, on the next page, he just goes and talks to Ben Urich for like 2 panels, and he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I know the guy you're talking about." So Peter Parker figures out who it is in 1 page, which is kind of anticlimactic, but whatever. Meanwhile, the guy gets this idea that I'm going to go and sell Spider-Man's secret to the underworld. That lasts about a page and a half. He gets his ass, kicked out of this bar. So then Spider-Man ends up tracking him down. The guy ends up going to another group of criminals. And Spider-Man, how does he track him down? I don't remember.
He gets his apartment address from
from Ben Urich. Yeah. So then basically he goes there, smashes in. A big fist fight ensues between him and these other bad guys. The photographer gets away, and then Spider-Man follows him into an alley, and then gets this idea in his head. He's like, okay. Oh yeah, first he has a flashback to his origin. So I skipped over that page. Of course, yeah, right. So then he follows him into this kind of alley, this dead end alley, and basically gets this idea in his head. Okay, the only way this is gonna work is if I put on this kind of like vigilante Batman persona, beat up these bad guys, and then scare this guy into giving me back the film from his camera, which he does. And it works. He gets back the film, and basically all is solved. But then the bad guy, or the photographer, is like, "Well, I mean, I technically still remember from my memory who Spider-Man is, but, he must live and work here in New York. Maybe I could spot him on the street someday. After all, how hard could it be to find a single face? Wah, wah, wah." And then we see him standing on this street with 100 people around him. And that's basically the end. And I can just say I like the fact that it's a done-in-one story. I like these fill-in stories. It's a great premise. However, I don't think the way that it was resolved was very satisfying. G.I. Jolie, what did you think?
Oh my god. Okay. So as a person who's been personally attacked by the villains in a press shark pit,
okay,
I absolutely love everything that happened in this.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you have your absolute nefarious types who'll do anything to get the shot. And you just wish death on them. Or some other hijinks. And this is the exact kind of hijinks, like gang-related hijinks you hope would happen after they leave wherever it is you're taking photographs. So that's all I have to say. It's relatable.
Right.
It's relatable to a point.
And here's the thing is that one of the things Bob Layton mentioned in the interview we did with him, he actually said that when he got hired as a professional, the first thing he did was sell all his comics, which I think is a huge mistake. But anyway, he said that it's more important to live a life than to read comics. And I can bet that he probably got the idea from the story from the same type of situation you're talking about, right? Like, this is a pretty cool premise. It's not something you see every day, right? Mm-hmm. And it's probably because Bob Layton has had a far more exciting life than any of us have. But I mean, you could tell by talking to him, he's a really interesting guy. So
yeah, and like we're and that's the thing, is that it may not seem like he's using all of his ingenuity, but here's the thing: Peter is not a detective, so
right.
It could have been plotted better. But again, how do you write a good plot when your character is not a good detective? So of course he would do exactly what you would assume he would do, which is, okay, let's see. Photographers seem to know each other. This guy's pretty nefarious. Betcha Ben has heard of him. Let's go ask the guy at work. Like, that's exactly what I would do. It's actually using his brain. I applaud Peter for using what little detective skills he does have a hold of in finding the information to track down this guy, because that's exactly what I would have done in this situation, and it worked. He found him and he was like in hot water. Like, someone took a picture of his face. He was effed if that got out. So
good point. Yep.
Yeah, there's something about this story that it's not like any other superhero stories I've written. And I think that the things that you were saying about Bob Layton's experience, I think that has a lot to do with it. And I'd love to read more stories that are like this.
Right, right.
We got Wolfsbane. Is it Wolfsbane? No. Who was shopping for a hat? Cannonball.
Right, Cannonball, yeah.
Like, more stories like that, please, that incorporate things that real people do.
Great point. Yes. That's a great point. I agree. And also a story that's done in one. You can pick this up and you have the whole story. You don't need to read anything else. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love the scene where they're just like watching the New York sunset go down, and it's like you can hear the 80s synth music in the background.
Yes.
Of them both just like pondering what their next move is going to be, and like, of course he's smoking a cigarette while it's happening. And like, it's ridiculous, but it's so good.
You know, you know what's funny? I'm glad you brought that up. I got to cut in for a second here. I'm a big fan of Michael Mann. Michael Mann is one of the biggest, most important creators to work on Miami Vice. Michael Mann went on to direct a movie called Heat, which everyone's seen, which influenced The Dark Knight, blah, blah, blah. He's done all these movies, Collateral, etc. One of the coolest scenes in Heat is when one of the bank robbers comes back into his apartment and he looks out the window and it's all colored blue and there's a sunset. Guess what, Michael Mann? You got it from this issue of Spider-Man, didn't you? You know what I mean? Like, it's like this. You're right. It's pure 80s. And I can hear the synth music. You're 100% right.
Yeah, it's like, it's either great. Synth music or like the synth saxophone solo from Boys This Summer. Like, come on.
You're totally right. You're totally right. Okay, Bex Luther, what do you think? Did you enjoy this issue?
I'm a big fan of Peter Parker wearing the deepest V-neck he could find.
Right.
Yes, bitch.
Like, Peter Parker always is dressed ugly. And in this issue, he is fly as hell. I love the V-neck. Like, he starts off, we're bringing back the web backpack. Love the web backpack. Good accessory, matches the fit, super, like, useful. And then he's just wearing, like, jeans, but his spider suit's underneath the jeans, so it looks like he's got little spider socks. I like to imagine that they are spider socks. They just match the fit. Like, it's a good look. No, I did enjoy reading this one. It was pretty fun. It wasn't too complicated, but I kind of liked that. Like,
right.
It's like how with all the superhero movies, how we're all kind of bored and tired of like the big giant world-ending disaster. Like, the only person in this comic that is potentially gonna get hurt is Peter. and not even physically, right? Like, obviously there's, like, they fight some goons and whatever, but it's just, oh, Peter's identity is going to get out. And that's the problem. There's no scorpion, there's no bomb, there's nothing. It's just kind of like, crap, kid's got to get that camera. And that's it. So I like these like simple, like more like, oh, it's just like a one and done, kind of easy, but also not life-threatening story where I'm not like, oh no, is Peter gonna die? It's still like a little tension because like, oh, is that gonna find out who he is? But I don't know. I enjoyed the simpleness of it, and just not simpleness, not like the littleness of it. It's kind of like the reason I liked the Ant-Man movie was because didn't have anything really to do with anything else.
The stakes are totally different.
You know, that's a great point, because a lot of times in these comics where, you know, if the cliffhanger of the comic is the lead hero is dead or the lead hero is blind, then you think to yourself, well, I know he's going to gain his sight back and I know he's not dead. So there's actually no interest in it. But in this story, you actually think, wow, what could come out of this? This is bad. He's got to use his wits to get out of it. And sure enough, he does, right?
Yeah, and not only that, but the guy did see him. Like, there's still somebody who knows what Spider-Man looks like out there. Like, that's still a possible threat.
Yeah.
Like, it ends with him still kind of losing, which is one of my favorite kind of ways for comic books to end.
Right.
And it even gets a little bit dark, too, because there's a scene where Spider-Man, or Peter, sees the photographer that he's been chasing getting just annihilated in an alleyway.
Right.
And part of him is like,
that.
do I just let that happen?
Right.
He knows what I look like. Should I? Like, and I was like, whoa. Is this another, like, demon in the bottle type story? Like, what is going on? It was so good.
Right. Joshua Mervell, what'd you think of this story?
Yeah, this one was a lot of fun. I really like that this bad guy that has been taking advantage of Peter and the fact that he knows his identity. Well, I guess he has a picture of him, so he has a clue to his secret identity. Is just some dude.
Right.
I think that is really what makes this, because if it was somebody like Dr. Octopus or Kingpin, Spider-Man would be tracking a bad guy down to punch them and take the photo away.
Right.
This in this issue, he has to track just a regular dude that he does not know, and somebody who he still has to protect and who he is there to save. And it's really fun. And I also really like the ending with the fact that it's kind of reversed now. Where Spider-Man or Peter Parker was tracking down just one guy in New York, and now at the end it's the guy that's trying to track down this man that he has never met before and has only seen once, and he only has his memory to go off of. So I mean, like, even if he does find Peter, what is he gonna stop him and be like, you kind of fit the description of that guy that I once saw in an airport,
Right.
for like a split second as I took a picture, right?
It's cool. I mean, you know, I actually wonder if someone ever followed up with this, and if they didn't, wouldn't it be great to come back years later and do like a sequel to this story? And you know, this guy comes out of the woodwork, and I don't know, it'd be a cool thing, right?
Yeah. Maybe next time we say Bob Layton, we can be like, so you're going to do another Dirty Jake Jones story?
There you go, yeah. Okay, I just Googled it.
Amazing.
It's his only appearance. But you know what, Julie? That is totally a good idea. We will mention that to him.
I enjoyed this character. He is a sleazeball, like 100p. I'm into it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Sleazeball 5000.
something really weird about this issue, and I'm assuming it has to do with the recoloring of this issue, but I know that they use blue a lot to show shading when things are black. So when somebody has black hair, a lot of the times some of the line work is blue to kind of show like light reflection. This issue, this guy's hair is pretty much just blue with a little bit of black like line detail.
Okay.
It look like, I don't know why, the entire issue, I was like, he has bright blue hair.
Right.
It just it just did not look like he had black hair. It was just solid blue most of the time.
I didn't even notice that. That's a good point, though.
Yeah.
That was annoying.
But again, I really do have a feeling it has to do with the recoloring, because I'm sure with the like the newsprint, it's darker, so the blue was probably much more muted. So just this like raw color against white, it was just this bright blue, like it's the same blue as Spider-Man.
Yes. Well, yeah, because there was literally
I guess right,
colors.
but if they're recoloring it, you know what I mean? It just seems weird.
Like, why wouldn't they just make a different shade? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very plain for a recoloring.
Yeah.
Pretty sad.
When you Google, like I wanted to see if he was in anything else too, and like just the images, there's like scans from like the original comic, and it does look a lot less crazy.
Okay. Yeah. And then something
go
else I
ahead.
also noticed, we have read a lot of Spidey comics for this podcast, and we've seen his hands a lot, but this is the first time I think I've ever seen the button on Spider-Man's costume for his web shooters.
Okay, what page?
Original page 20, like right at the end as he's asking for the photo back, you see his hand in frame, like, give me the photo, and you can actually see the button that he presses to shoot the webs.
What in tarnation? Yeah,
I have never
that.
seen that, and I always assumed that it was underneath the costume.
Well, technically it is. Technically, that's probably a miscoloring. Like, that should be red because it is underneath the costume.
Right.
That's the weird thing about Spidey is he does have these bulky metal web shooters underneath his gloves, but you just can never see them.
Right.
But they are there, yeah.
That's crazy. I also like the idea that they, even if it's miscolored, they could be over top.
I mean, it kind of makes sense that his web shooters would be like on the outside.
Yeah. There's like the
Thinking about it logically, like if it was a real costume.
The Scarlet Spider redesign by Dan Jurgens, who I don't like, but he put the web shooters on the outside and they look awesome. And then Spider-Girl in the 2000s reused that design and it looks awesome. Like, it's kind of something that they should consider, right? Why not? Just stick them on the outside. It looks cool, right?
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I was a kid, really quick, I actually got a Hulk, like toy playset thing where you would put like a Hulk belt on and a Hulk glove on, and I love Spider-Man so much that I just played Spider-Man instead because Spider-Man's gadgets were so cool.
Right.
But anyway, what were you gonna say?
I think that if the web shooters were on the outside, we'd have a lot more like times where they would malfunction, and it would be more of like a story point too.
Could be,
because I find that in the comics, especially around this time, if the web shooters ever failed, it was just kind of out of nowhere, like, beans, my web shooters. You know what I mean? Just add more suspense. But if they were on the outside, I feel like you could visually see them break or get clogged up or jammed, and it would like add to it maybe. I don't know.
I'm looking at some MCU pictures, and the Tom Holland Spider-Man, his web shooters are outside of his.
Yeah, they're
his
kind of like
costume.
built
Yeah.
into the suit. Yeah.
But I think that's so that they can sell web shooters.
Oh,
It's like
man.
the ones in the movie.
I remember when, as a kid, I had the web shooters with the silly string cans.
Yes.
Oh my god, those were the best.
Man, my mother hated those.
Yeah.
They were fantastic.
Yeah.
Siblings
So anyway.
bothering you? Web them in the face.
I'm gonna just real quick hop on eBay for a second.
I actually, just for the record, I went on Google and I found something called the Hulk utility belt.
Ooh.
And I'm pretty sure that's what I had. It doesn't look familiar, but it must have been what I had in the 1980s. But if anyone else is out there listening, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, it was definitely a belt with some like things that went on your wrist. So this must be it. The Hulk official utility belt from Remco. That must have been what I had. Damn, why didn't I keep it? Anyway.
Oh, only $25. Okay.
Ooh.
So.
Okay.
That'd be
So anyway.
great. Imagine going to a con and somebody's like, "Can I get your picture?" And they put their hand a little bit too low, and you're like, "No, web shooters." String their phone in the face.
Shock of a century.
Anyway, back to the comic. That is a cool thing it's like the detail. Like I think it's supposed to be red, like to note that it's a bump underneath the costume, but I don't know. I think it's funny. It looks like he's got like a trick buzzer.
Yeah, there you go.
It's just so crazy too to think that like, I don't know, like part of my morals have been compromised as well, because it's like I feel like Spidey should have let that man perish. Not that I care about.
Well, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
then the next 30 issues would be Peter whining about it.
Oh
True.
god.
Yeah.
Wait, is this a one-off? Never mind. It would have been fine.
Yeah.
And I get that's also why they had the retelling of the origin, right? Because it's like he's gonna have to kind of come across that again with like the whole Uncle Ben situation where he has to step in to save him because he has the power to do so.
Yeah, and you know what? Every time we talk about the origin story cropping back up, this is an example of a good time to bring it back up again, because it's kind of within context. Like it adds to the flavor of the story, and it reminds us that he's been confronted with thoughts like this before. It's not just shoehorned in to add panels, and I don't mind that it's here this time. I didn't actually roll my eyes while I was reading, and I was surprised at myself.
Right.
It's really good. Yeah.
I kind of did, but because it was before.
Why are you not rolling your eyes?
That's very true. But I think it was just because it was before I realized why they were doing it. And I wish that they just didn't do this as much, so that way I would really enjoy this in this comic. You know what I mean? Like it I feel like because they really shove it in your face so much, like, guess what? He could have saved Uncle Ben, but he didn't. And it's just like, yeah, I get it. So like here it makes sense, and I want it to have an impact on me, but I feel like I'm just so desensitized by it because they always show it in flashbacks that I'm just like, yeah, okay, yeah, I get it, Uncle Ben.
Fair point. There's one thing we haven't talked about yet. I'm surprised we have not mentioned the photo cover. Bex Luthor,
I did.
You sound like you're a big fan of this cover. Tell us about it.
You don't like it?
I like it. I mean, there was a trend of photo covers at this time. It's pretty cool.
Well, like,
what is it you like about it?
The composition is really nice, and how it like reflects what's going on in the comic, and the fact that his shoulders to waist ratio. He's got the good Chris Evans Dorito going on.
Gotcha.
Big fan of that Dorito shape.
Figured.
The upside down Dorito. I like it. I think it's cute, and the little jeans with the belt buckle and his little like curly hair, and the guy.
Yeah, and it.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and it's clearly like taken in the office that they.
Yeah.
Like it's just some guy in like the print. Like you could see all the prints and stuff in the back. Like it's just the office.
Yep. That's exactly what I was gonna say. And it's in no way was it taken into shooting in like shot in a stock room at Marvel headquarters.
With just like it's one of the editors like taking the picture as like the bad guy. Like they're like, who's the hottest guy we have at the office? And it's like some guy who's just there like to drop off a package, and they're like, hey, do you want to be Spider-Man?
Someone's son is visiting for the day, or this is the guy that gets the coffee. maybe.
Well, I at the time, I don't know. Did we talk about this yet? On the podcast, there at the time they actually had whenever they would have events, they had costumes ready for their characters, but they had specifically people hired for each character. So it wasn't that they sent the costume off to events. They actually had specific people playing each Marvel character, and they would fly them out to each event. So when you saw Spider-Man, it was the same Spider-Man at every single event. Same with Cap. Yeah. So this might actually be the official Spider-Man.
Okay, well, guess what? I just looked on CBR.com. This guy on the cover here, Becca, write this down. His name is Scott Leva, Leva. I guess he was used in promotional material to try and pump up the idea of a Spider-Man film by Canon Films.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, he's a stuntman and stunt coordinator.
Excuse me.
Also, Becca, he's a gymnast, which explains his shape.
This
They're all
episode of
Doritos.
Spider-Cast sponsored by Doritos.
Don't eat them, just look
Get
like them.
flavor blasted.
Or that.
What's this guy been up to? I'm interested. He's got like 4 pictures and that's it.
Oh, come on. Look at these other pictures of him as Peter Parker. What a fox.
Like this is a hunky dude.
Oh, he didn't age well, though.
Aw.
Sorry, Scott.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Too much roids.
He does stunts for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow.
So
he's
is
still
this
in the
how
game.
you
He was
picture...
in X-Men. Sorry.
Anyway, okay. Back to the
Wait, who
comic
was he
here.
in X-Men?
He was Waterboy number 2.
Oh, cool.
Moving up in the world. Okay. So
From Spider-Man to Waterboy number 2.
is this what you guys pictured when you picture Spider-Man in real life? Is this the face
No.
of Spider-Man? No?
I mean, it's
Kind of.
I guess it's kind of similar to how he's drawn in this issue. He maybe looks a little too old because I know he's in college now, but I still think of him as like high school Peter.
Right.
So sometimes seeing him like aged up like this is a little strange, but I guess that would be what a college guy that's completely jacked looks like.
Right, exactly.
I just don't picture Spider-Man with like thighs that could crush a watermelon or my face, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
It's too steamy.
Yes, like when you think of like this kind of body type, it's more of like a Batman kind of Superman kind of thing. And like Spider-Man needs to be lean, and he's obviously still going to be muscular, but he has to be like lean and speedy, right? Like
Right.
it's like
yeah,
whenever,
like in
sorry,
like
go
in
ahead.
Ezra Miller, like in Ezra Miller.
Yeah, like they do this all the time where like jack dudes want to be Nightwing, and it's like, sorry, you can't be Nightwing. Nightwing needs to be skinnier than you with a better butt. Like Spider-Man has a good butt for sure,
Yeah.
but maybe not the big shoulders and the
Okay, so like a Harry Styles.
yes, in a dress.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, airflow. It's important. So.
Yeah.
I don't like photo covers.
So
Sorry, I just had to say
yeah, so photo covers in general we kind of don't like. We've seen a few, right? We saw that Marvel team up with Spider-Man and Captain America, right? Around this time there was also a Spider-Woman one, I think on our last issue with Tigra and some others on it.
Right.
I'm not a big fan either.
Just gonna look that up real quick.
I think we
There you
also
go.
saw one with we also saw one with like Spider-Man on like the roof, and the picture was so bad. It was really
what was
early
that?
on when we started the podcast.
Okay, I'm gonna look that up.
I'm trying to
Marvel
remember.
photo covers.
It looked like a poor cosplay photo shoot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this one I think is pretty well done. it also makes sense for this issue. And like, because this actually happens, where the other one, it's just like Spider-Man posing for a picture on a rooftop.
Right.
So I didn't mind that. And this whole issue is based around a photo.
Right.
So I feel like this is maybe the only time where I'm like, okay, I understand why you would do this. Like, this one makes sense. I would have rather, not a photo cover, but...
Well, it's such a shame that the link that Mike just put in the chat, if you scroll down there, he did do, Layton did do a backup pencil version of the cover, and it's really good.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Nice.
and it is, good to the point where I don't like the photo cover anymore.
Now, I have to ask, Becca, did you find Spider-Woman number 50 photo cover?
I did, and I was not as excited about it
Oh,
as
really?
I was hoping to be. Well, one, when I googled Spider-Woman photo cover, it did come up, but also did that Milo Manara garbage cover come up, and I'm like,
yeah.
and if I need to look at that one more time, I'm gonna have a conniption fit. But also, whoever took this picture doesn't know how to photograph women.
Could be.
Or these women were really uncomfortable.
Well, I have to point out, if you guys are looking at it right now, and if you're listening to us at home, that the person in the Tigra costume is editor Innocenti. So just keep that in mind when you look at it. But anyway.
The really teeny tiny Tigra down at the bottom?
Yes, that's Innocenti. Anyway.
Who's
Okay.
the person running with just sneakers
That's
at the bottom?
That's Parkour Man.
Oh, yes.
So anyway,
Who is that?
we'll do a special on photo covers.
Is that Werewolf by Night?
It kind of just looks like
It might be
Doc Brown
it might
with running
be, yep.
shoes.
And then there's a guy with a scythe? What is this?
Sounds like awesomeness to me, and I want to read it.
I like the
Oh,
guy.
look at this.
I like the guy above who stuck his arm through the bars and is holding his sword through. What are you gonna do with that?
It's a
He's
good
gonna
point.
wave it around a little bit.
And he's like, "Oh wait, guys, hold on." And he's got to reach around the top of the rail to grab the weapon with his other hand so he can take it back out.
So okay, let's just say I did send a link that shows it shows 3 of the Spider-Man or the photo covers. The Dazzler one, which we reviewed on Quasar Chronology, and it
I
shows
was
the
there.
and it shows the Spider-Man and Captain America cover. I'm not sure that's the one you were talking about, Josh, but it's pretty terrible. But
Yes, I think
like
it
the
was that one.
Spider-Man one. The
But
one
let's-
with Captain America. It's charming.
But yeah, let's wrap up the
yeah.
the photo cover discussion. Let's talk about Spectacular Spider-Man. So yeah, we all recommend that issue, right? I recommend it. G.I. Jolie.
Yeah, I do. I like it. I recommend you also search out that Bob Layton cover because I saw it just as Becca was talking about how it made her not like the photo anymore. And I was
Yes, I
like,
found it. Yep.
yeah, 100%. I'm into the Bob Layton cover, the backup.
Yep.
I'm like, wow. Okay.
Good
Yeah,
stuff.
it's like the print that you'd see on his table and you'd be like, oh, $50? Okay.
Right.
I'll take 2.
Josh, you recommend it?
Yes, for sure.
Me too. Bex Luthor.
Yeah, and then also go look up that alt cover.
Yeah,
really good.
we'll post that with our post for sure. But now
It's
we're
really
gonna move
funny.
on to Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man number 100, the last issue by Al Milgrom. Thank the Lord. Okay, but anyway, Bex Luthor and G.I. Jolie, you guys are gonna team up and tell us what this issue is
Marvel
about.
team up.
Yeah.
I don't know why you were so upset, Josh. This was amazing because the Spot was in it.
Well, right, and it starts off strong with Kingpin in a Speedo.
With just a naked
Yes.
Kingpin.
Yeah.
How is that upsetting at all to anybody? How did that just not make your day?
No, it started off really strong, and then
Maybe a little
he
too
put on a
strong.
robe, and then I was like, okay, well, I'm out.
I'm out.
I'm out.
Oh yeah. And then he tore off Black Canary's wig. Black Canary. I keep calling her Black Canary.
Black Cat.
Black Cat,
Black
right?
Cat.
Black
yeah.
Cat, yeah.
Black
I was like,
Cat,
oh, wait a
Black
second.
Mary, Catwoman.
Yeah.
It's all the same lady.
Okay, so this issue starts, like we said, with Kingpin and a Speedo. He's just like working out. His workout is to like have people dressed as Spider-Man and Black Cat attack him.
So dumb.
It's like, is this his workout or is this something that we might have not, like, should not have seen? Like,
Yeah.
this like, it's okay if you have a kink, Kingpin. You're allowed to. But I don't want to
yeah.
be a part of it.
His kink, though, is that it upsets him so badly that it affects him in a way that breaking the bones of these innocent people, it just doesn't do kicking their real asses justice. Like, he gets so upset about it that he puts the robe on and walks away. And I'm like, wow, man, Kingpin is soft. So yeah, he's just like, okay, you know what? I'm out of here. Like, I can't deal with this anymore, but I'm gonna go see what my man Spot is doing. But I guess he doesn't know that Spot is Spotty.
No, so Dr. What is his real name? Dr. Ohm? Whatever.
Yeah.
Dalmatian boy. He never tells him. He's like, oh crap, I don't think I should tell him that I have these powers because I want to be able to do stuff with them, right? So then there's a brief little interlude where he explains his powers again because he's a new character and he has to do that. And then just as Kingpin's about to like break down the door, he finally figures out how to turn back into a human by like submerging all of the spots into one spot.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Which is
fun.
kind of funny. And then he just puts a jacket over top of everything.
Perfect, hidden.
Yeah. It's like when gangsters cover up their bullet wounds, they just put a t-shirt on.
Yeah, it's
That's
gone.
all that is. Yeah. So yeah.
So he doesn't want to tell Kingpin about his powers, which, I mean, fine, don't, I guess. And then Kingpin orders him back to work.
Yeah. And then he's like, okay, cool. You're doing all you can. I see. And then he goes and he visits Vanessa.
His
who
ailing
is
wife.
like, yeah, who's like on another floor and being kind of monitored by a private doctor who, in a strange, like, sort of, it's just the doctor's sitting there in the dark with Vanessa and he's kind of like in his mind griping about like, is this my life? Would my parents be proud of me? Like, I'm the private doctor to a freaking millionaire Kingpin. And he's just, I find it strange that that's like, that they included that inner monologue, but it's nice.
They want you to know that he regrets going to medical school. It's important for the plot later on.
Right? And I thought this whole time that Vanessa was maybe comatose or like kind of a vegetable, but I guess she's
Right.
not. She's just been in a weakened state. So yeah, it seems like maybe she's dying from the age old like woman's affliction of hysterics.
She doesn't want to believe that her husband is the Kingpin and it's driving her crazy and also killing her.
It's so weird. I hate this. Listen, I think this is the first time we actually see Vanessa and like get a hint of like what's actually wrong with her, and what it turns out to be is women be crazy, right? And it's just like, oh, come on, this is
Yeah.
stupid. What?
Yeah.
To be
We
fair,
gotta
the rest of the
become-
comic also says women be crazy, right?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, we'll get to Black Cat later. Yeah. So
But
again,
first off, babes.
yeah, babes. And in the grand tradition of women be crazy, they're like, oh, they're the new tenants that we've been introduced to in a different episode. Was it Bambi, Candy, and Randy?
And Mandy and Shandy and
Randy, Candy, and Bambi. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Dandy
they're all
Sandy.
outside Peter's apartment door, contemplating like whether they should knock on it to invite Peter to the beach because they heard him come in late, and you don't want to be the woman who wakes a sleeping man.
God forbid. You knock on a single man's door in a bikini and ask him to come with you to the beach. He's gonna be furious.
Right.
yeah.
Three almost identical women in bikinis knock on your door and you're like, what? It's 9 a.m.
Excuse me, ma'am, I have to get my beauty sleep. Anyway, he's having a horrific nightmare while this happens.
And it's like it's kind of crazy, and it's like it's Black Cat. He's walking in this like weird hellscape, of like Sleepy Hollow with Black Cat and Mary Jane, and they're both are they fighting about, hold on, let me see. The inner turmoil is that they all know he's Spider-Man, but they all want him to be something different. Mary Jane wants him to be Peter because it's safer for everybody, and Black Cat wants him to be Spider-Man because it makes her horny. Like,
I guess.
And that's the turmoil inside there in this little dream. And all the while, the third thing that kind of is plaguing Peter is that the black suit is also a problem.
Oh no, me and my 3 girlfriends, Black Cat, Mary Jane, and the symbiote from space. Who do I choose? It's like so weird. It was a weird dream. I was like reading it and going, what is this gonna mean something? No. Why would that?
It's right.
It's also especially so weird because it's like he missed going to the beach with 3 hot babes because he was dreaming about 2 other hot babes that he's also involved with.
Yeah.
Man,
It's just
Peter,
like-
you're getting unrelatable.
Wasn't Peter Parker
That old
supposed to be
Parker
like
luck,
down on
eh?
his luck with women, but he's just got
Yeah.
5 of them right now, I guess.
And then one more
Well,
calls
6
him
if
when
you
he wakes
count.
up.
True.
Shauna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is that a fourth, I'm including the symbiote as a third.
Yes.
A third woman calls him out, like on the literal telephone, and that's how he kind of wakes up.
Mm-hmm.
And she, it's Shawana?
Sure.
Shashan. She's
Shashan?
Sean, yeah.
Yeah, she's calling him again because she's having issues with Flash Thompson. And Flash is being evasive again about where he's going or where he's been. And she's called Peter to come over to help her. And Peter, being like the loyal friend, is like, sure thing. I never thought I'd have to be cleaning up my ex enemy Flash Thompson's romantic
Mistakes?
problems,
I don't know. Yeah.
mistakes. But here we are. These are the crosses that I bear.
And like, Shashan needs some lady friends, because I read this and her first thought is to call Peter, be like, oh, can you see what he's up to? Meanwhile, if she called me, I'd be like, girl, dump him. He's being sketchy.
Yeah. So what Peter does to help is that he dons the Spidey costume and follows him. Because it's a more, I guess, I mean, if you see someone swinging around following you and you see that it's Spider-Man and you don't know that one of your good friends is Spider-Man, you wouldn't really think anything of it. You'd think, oh, there's Spider-Man fighting crime, right?
And I guess Flash is probably not too observant since he doesn't
He's
notice.
Flash.
And
No, yeah.
Peter makes a note. He's like, oh, I wouldn't have any cover soon if it wasn't for like these sparse trees. So they make a note to be like, oh, Flash really didn't see him.
Yeah, it's really funny that in the middle of like not Central Park, but wherever the stadium is, there happens to be a tree that Spider-Man can conceal himself in.
It's always convenient. So
Yes.
he follows him to the stadium where he's like trying out for a football team, like a professional football team. I didn't know that you could just do that. Like, I'm pretty sure there's recruiters and stuff, but whatever. And it turns out that Flash is not as good as he was in high school. Shocking, he peaked. So, but anyway, it doesn't matter because Peter's like, whoa, he's just playing football. That's nothing. And then, of course, Betty shows up. Betty, who is cheating on her husband, Ned, with Flash, who's cheating on his girlfriend.
Yes, and
Right.
like in the last issue was so crazy because they had a whole dinner where they talked about how them just being friends was no big deal, and she's here like hugging him, and like this is like girlfriend stuff.
And he's like, the next pass is for her. Like, I love how we're so invested into this really side story of Flash Thompson cheating on his girlfriend, but I'm really invested in it.
Yeah, the next thing he's gonna do is he's gonna give Betty his pin, and it's gonna be the end of her marriage. Just you wait.
Well, I'm excited to see where that goes, and that was the end of it. Weird issue, not a whole lot of Spider-Man, but
No, but you know what they do, which we haven't seen. is they show, I think the last issue we also see the symbiote, he takes over the body of a tourist, and in this issue it like leaves off right where it left.
I love
with that tourist, because we get this like spongy Spider-Man like falling
just
through the
punching
air
his way through New York, and everyone's like, "Well, there's Spider-Man," and everyone's like, is that Spider-Man?"
It's like he's thick, he's kind of curvy, it's kind of funny, and it's really awkward.
And then oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that, and then we get back to like the last
not
issue.
fun.
Yeah.
Like, we go from,
like,
oh, cool, the symbiote's like, is this clumsy Spider-Man? Then I'm like, oh, now he's with Black Cat. And they're talking about their stupid feelings, and it's dumb.
But that's the thing, is that they don't. He calls her on the telephone and says, look, babe, I'm not going out tonight. In an attempt to get her to stay in.
She's like, yeah, sure, no probs.
Yeah, so he's like, okay, good. She doesn't think I'm going out, and she didn't say she wanted to like come over. So now I'm free to go and best the Kingpin tonight. And she has the exact same thought.
So like, maybe they're perfect for each other.
Or they're both stupid.
Or both.
Yeah, so they both, and this brings us back to the action happening at the Kingpin's lair. Like, all of this subplot, which was honestly, on the whole, maybe a little bit unnecessary, kind of entertaining, but we get back to the real meat and potatoes, Spot.
My favorite character.
Oh yeah, so he takes his lab coat off, revealing his spot.
Yes.
Yeah. I love how he threw, once he figured out how to hide all his spots, he really did just throw a lab coat over it. Because the moment the Kingpin like ducks out to go see Vanessa, he's like, all right, like, let's shake this off. And he's like taking off his lab coat, and he's just full like shirtless underneath with one spot.
And then we get to probably the most interesting couple pages of the comic, where the Spot like talks about how his powers work and how he's figuring them out. And in a comic where nothing happens, I was like so enthralled. I was like, oh, cool, so he can stretch him out and walk through him and cover stuff up. That's really interesting. And then of course we don't explore that anymore, but that's fine. But
yeah. And there's a part where he's like, oh, good thing I put a spot here before. It makes a really good, like, he's using them to transport himself around the town.
Yeah, he can just leave them places.
Yeah, and I thought that was like really cool. So anyway, long story short, he battles a Spot.
Yeah, we get a really interesting scene
up.
where like the camera is covered by polka dots. But yeah, so he's fighting the Spot, and he doesn't realize that the Spot can do the things that he could do in the last fight. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just like it does this really weird thing where it cuts, like, as if they're like really bad cuts from like, and then back to the symbiote flailing around in the air.
I do like that.
It releasing the tourist. I mean, I posted it on social media, but that was my favorite part. But like, Felicia shows up as she always does. She ruins the party as she always does. And then, for the sake of brevity, Kingpin tells her, not only did I gift you with the power of bad luck, but because I knew you were with Peter Parker, I also gifted you your bad luck power transfers to people that you spend lots of time with. So like, we figure out that it may be lame, but that's the reason why her bad luck powers are affecting Peter. And then she comes to the realization that she's like, oh great, if this is how it's going to be, then I really can't be with him. Mm-hmm. And this is what it takes. So anyway, Peter fights the Kingpin.
So anyway, we have emotional situations, and then Peter fights the Kingpin.
Yeah, the Kingpin falls on his ass. I don't really know how he takes like a spiral staircase and hits Peter with it, which is like crazy. Like,
yeah, and they make a note to be like, oh, you don't have any powers, but he's like holding an entire staircase.
Yeah. compromising the structural integrity of his like penthouse apartment, I'm sure. But and then it cuts to sad sack Felicia again, just wandering around on top of the building. Like she's full out of the action because she's so distraught about the news about Peter.
And then Kingpin lets him go.
Right?
He just calls the cops and lets him go. He's like, get out of here, you rascal. Even though like 2 pages before, he's like, I'll kill you. And he's like, Vamoose.
Yeah.
It's...
And...
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. No, you go ahead, Josh.
That's a big problem in this issue, I find, is that stories are just resolved because the comic's ending, so we need to get these characters back to their houses for the night so we can start the next issue. It happens with Spider-Man and Kingpin. Like, why does Kingpin let him go? I guess he was kind of losing, but he wasn't done yet. Spider-Man had just like threw him into a control panel and he's like, I'm gonna press this button, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna call the cops. It's like, okay. And then earlier on we have Black Cat and Kingpin talking when he reveals the powers, like that her power is like a double-edged sword. It'll also affect people that you spend too much time with. She's like, I'll kill you for this. And he says, your power's all but useless if I don't attack you, and I won't. Which means he was there defenseless. Her powers don't kill people. She kills people like herself. And she just runs away like, you're right. My powers won't affect you. So that means you can't die, I guess. It's so weird. Like she would have to like actually kill him. Why didn't she just do it?
Yeah, he wasn't going to attack her.
It
would have been
exactly
perfect.
He was really like the one that was screwed in this situation, and she just runs off upset.
Well, yeah, she's a woman, right? And they can't think if they don't think straight. Oh, you smart man, you bested me. I better go cry on the roof about it.
Which is exactly
She 110% does that. She Batmans it on the roof, all mopey. And then we end the issue with, of course, them talking about their feelings, because we haven't done that yet, actually.
Yeah.
And so... oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, in what took, a year to do, they finally end it. Finally. In the most anticlimactic way possible.
And it's funny because Peter ends it because he finally realizes, he's like, oh, she's not good for me because she wants me to be something I'm not, and I can't do that. And he makes the very mature, real conclusion that this is not a healthy relationship and he should end it before both of them get even more hurt. And she retaliates by being pissed off that he was the one who dumped her.
It's so stupid. Oh, God, I hate this issue.
And then he goes back home and he's all sad, and he fully takes his costume off, talks about how he's so tired, and then he's like, I can't sleep, puts the costume back on and to leave.
Yeah.
But I think
next issue.
I think the symbiote is on it this time, though, so...
Well, the symbiote's waiting, in the wings.
In the closet.
Yeah.
Which is a metaphor?
So, yeah. Anyway.
God, I hope so, because if they don't add some spice to this love life, if they're gonna put his love life into a comic and they don't add anything of value to it, then I'm just gonna burn that apartment building he lives in to the ground, because enough is enough.
I will say, though, it ended, and now I'm kind of like, now that they're actually broken up, I'm way more interested in their relationship. Yeah. Like, she seems pissed. I can't wait to see what stupid thing she does.
Actually. Yeah. I hope she just turns right back to a life of crime, and she lets that drive her, because that would make her far more interesting. Anything she does for herself to get back at Peter will be far more interesting than any of the one things that she did, which was throw herself at him to get into Peter Parker's pants. Like, who cares about that? I don't care.
And it's so weird in this issue that she flip-flops so much. So, like, when she first breaks into the Kingpin's lair or whatever, and she's like, whoops, I just dropped right in the middle of all these goons. And the dialogue she has with them is actually kind of funny. And the fact that she just toys with them is kind of funny. And, like, like she has a personality for a second. And then she's immediately like, oh no, Kingpin! I guess
Right.
I'm gonna be sad about Spider-Man again.
The writers remembered that they were writing dialogue for a woman.
Yeah, they
So
were
they
like,
were
oh,
like, oh shoot. Back to being fragile.
yeah. And it's such a shame.
It sucks. Yeah. It really sucks that this is the end of the story, because Black Cat was such a strong character when we were first introduced to her, and like the beginning of Peter and her and Felicia dating. It was really fun, and then it just dragged on, and then she turned from being a character to a plot point in Peter's story, instead of this being their story together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
I don't know what to think about her or her arc. Sorry, go ahead, Becca.
I was just gonna say, it shouldn't be too hard that as soon as she gets a boyfriend, it doesn't change the fact that she could still be her own person, but then I guess not.
Yeah, it's stupid. I'm really happy that this is over and that she's out. Not because I dislike the character, but because I really dislike what they've done to this character. And that this story has been dragging on for just far too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's turned from a character to like a plot point in Peter's story. And it really sucks. It really bums me out, because this whole idea of him having two women in his life and him having to decide which side of himself that he wants to be. Does he want to side with MJ and be Peter Parker, or does he want to drop that life and just be superhero with Black Cat and be Spider-Man forever? And he's always juggling that balance in all of his stories, really. And to actually kind of see it really visualized in this way is interesting. And having, it's almost like those two sides have always been like conflicting, but now it's like with MJ and Felicia, it's almost like those two sides of himself are personified, and they're now actually fighting over him. But we never really got that story. You know what I mean? Like, we never really saw that conflict. We just saw them each issue moping on a rooftop, like, something's weird here. I wonder why Felicia doesn't want me to be Peter. Why is she acting so strange? And it just drags on over and over again. And it's a bummer, because it seems like it would be a really fun story.
Yeah. If they just explored these kinds of things a little, because like we all get into relationships where the other person wants us to be someone else, and it would just be nice if the kids who are reading these stories learned from the adults who are writing them about how to work through these feelings and thoughts effectively, rather than just running away from them, denying that they exist. Like it teaches us to center our emotions, and it teaches us no life skills. And these are the kinds of comics that the Comic Code Authority should be like banning.
Right.
Because at least somebody exploding somebody else is, it could be argued as it's like a natural progression of thoughts and emotions, but more so than this, at least. So I can't recommend this comic at all.
I can just say I am really glad this story is finally over. Al Milgram's only written, I think, 10 or 11 issues of Spectacular Spider-Man, but I haven't really enjoyed any of them. So yeah, this is mercifully over. But I do want to say the art was better in this issue. Did anyone notice that the art was different? It was inked by Geof Isherwood, who's a good artist, and Vince Colletta, who's not a good artist. But did anyone else notice that the art was drastically different in this issue?
Not really.
Or at least different. No.
No, honestly,
No.
Okay, like I'll give you some examples.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, let me just. Okay, digital page 18. There's a incredible shot of Spider-Man swinging over the city. I can only assume that Al Milgrom penciled in a crappy shot of Spidey and Geof Isherwood probably fixed it up because that shot is amazing. No?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, there,
you have. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
there are some good stuff. Just like with any other issue of Peter Parker, there's some panels and pages that are really fantastic and well done, and then a lot of the other ones are extremely sloppy and confusing, and the characters aren't like meshing well together in the scene. I mean, even like small things like on page original 37, the bottom right panel, Spider-Man is kind of like holding Black Cat's hand, but their hands are like mashed together. Where are his fingers? It's like he's phasing through her. It's so strange. Like
say that.
there's just like there's just strange moments where like the figure drawing doesn't look right, and it feels rushed in parts.
Okay, what about digital page 32, original page 31, when Kingpin he's got Spider-Man's entire body and he smashes him down to the ground. I think that's a great shot.
Yeah. Again, there are some really good stuff. There's really some good stuff in here, but I feel like it doesn't shine out as much when there's a lot of messy things. I mean, even some of the action is confusing. And like the panels don't do a really good job of telling the story of what's happening, and a lot of the time they have to still describe what's going on because you can't always get it.
Right.
I mean, I guess you can also kind of see like with Kingpin ripping apart the stairs. It almost looks like he's climbing up the stairs in the one panel, and then the next one it's like on the ground and he's like ripping it around.
Right. It doesn't quite make sense. Yeah. Like how big a room is this?
Right. Or is that like an up angle? Like is that like from the ceiling looking down?
Good point.
Because a few panels later, the staircase is back to being upright again.
Right. Yeah.
And Spider-Man jumps down. So does he actually rip off the staircase, or is this just a weird like camera angle that we're looking at?
Yeah, good point. But then I think the shadow makes it look like he's definitely ripped it off and he's trying to hit him with it. So.
Right.
Peter's just on top of the staircase and he's giving it little shakes to try to get him off.
But even Spider-Man says, yeah, tearing the staircase right off the wall. You sure you're not a mutant or something? So he definitely tears it off. And you can see...
I agree with you. He does tear it off. What I'm saying is I would not have known for sure if they didn't say it.
Right. Okay. Yep. Okay.
So I didn't hate it. I didn't hate the art. I thought it was on par with most of the other issues of Peter Parker.
The Spot is always great, though.
Yes.
Yes. Honestly, I gotta say the Spot's powers are so cool. Mm-hmm. Like we said, the fact that he could plant spots all around the city and then use them to kind of like teleport, and the fact that Spider-Man sticks his head into one of the spots to taunt him. Right. That's so cool.
And point his finger at him. It's so funny. What page is that on? I don't remember what page that was on, but it was one of my favorite parts where he just like waggles his finger in the polka dot dimension at him.
I gotta find that.
Or like when the Spot throws a bunch of spots at Peter and is like, you can't escape me, and then proceeds to like punch through a spot that's beside him, and then his fist emerges through a spot that's beside Spider-Man's head, and like that's how he is able to like it's sort of like a ranged attack. It's like a ranged touched attack, but melee, and also really cool. Well, no, he's not holding anything, but it's really cool that he can do that with his body.
It's page 28.
Yeah, original 28. Yep. When he sticks his head in to wag his finger at him, that's great.
And it's also the same page with what Jolie was just describing too, with the punches.
Right. Yeah. It's brilliant.
I also love later on, like after this fight, we see him like cleaning up his spots.
Picking
like he's
up his
It's so great. Like he's literally got an arm full of polka dots.
Yes.
And he just runs into Felicia on the roof and it's kind of like this is embarrassing. Just kind of cleaning up here. And she's like, yeah, I really don't want to fight you either. And he's like, yeah, I just had a fight with your boyfriend. I'm just kind of trying to get my spots. Yeah. Like, let's not do this right now.
Yeah.
She's
And
like,
it's
I
funny-
have brooding to do.
Yeah.
I also love the attention to detail that he's using up so many spots that his costume becomes almost white.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's so cool, right? Like, it's not just a costume design. Those are actual moving spots that can be taken off and put back on. That's so smart.
Yeah.
I love it.
All of the men in one way or another are like just done with Felicia in this comic. She just looks so dejected after the spot disappears. She's like, oh, okay.
You know, it feels like everybody in this issue also knows that Felicia's being written out. They know that she's done by the end of this issue, so they're like, oh, whatever, just get out of here. Don't you have like a rooftop to go like be sat on?
Kick dust.
Yeah.
Bye.
Well, yeah, 'cause
Bye, Felicia.
When she's fighting the goons, she runs into Kingpin's office and they're like, well, she's there she goes. All right.
She's out of our hands now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got some news, guys. I thought that after this issue, the Spot disappeared and did not come back until Mark Waid's Daredevil run. But I was wrong. He actually came back in Spectacular Spider-Man number 246, and he formed a supervillain team called the Legion of Losers.
No.
Oh,
With-
my
yes.
God.
With the Gibbon, the second kangaroo, and the grizzly. Okay?
Not even-
That's
the first
so
kangaroo.
weird because he's not a shitty villain.
Right.
He is
Like,
a
he's-
loser, though.
Yeah. Well,
Well, I guess but he doesn't lose.
That's true.
He
He's just
never
kind of a dork.
he never does he actually lose to Spider? Oh, I guess yeah. He kind of loses here.
Oh, it's also called the Spider-Man Revenge Squad.
right. Which is awesome. Yeah, it's a play on the Superman Revenge Squad. That's so cool.
So of course the Gibbon is there because these guys are nothing but petty. Like the Gibbon. My goodness.
Yeah, what's the
love
Spot
it.
doing with these losers? He's not a loser.
You got that right.
Aw. Well,
Oh!
we love you, Spot.
And guess what? The issue in which they team up is inked by none other than Al Milgrom.
Oh, that's
So,
awesome.
yeah. We'll get to that issue in a few years. But anyway.
Also, fun fact about the Spot, he was roommates with Mysterio in college.
Really?
That's what it says here.
Cute.
He says
Wow.
he earned his doctorate at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where he was roommates with Quentin Beck.
Interesting.
Nice.
You learn something new every day.
Wow.
Okay, so I don't know. I think we've said all we can about Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man 100. I give it a... Here's the thing. If I were to reprint all these issues, I would probably skip over the last 11 issues of Peter Parker. I don't think anyone needs to really read these. Although, but the Spot is good. So maybe just for the Spot. Bex Luthor, what do you think?
Yeah, just for the Spot. None of it matters at all. It's just like the whole plot, it's Peter's sad and confused and none of it really matters. Like, to the grand scheme of things, like if it wasn't for Black Cat, he wouldn't be going to Kingpin. If it wasn't for Black Cat, he wouldn't be sad. If it wasn't for Black Cat, he would be at the beach right now. Like,
That's how you know the bad luck powers are working on him.
Mm-hmm.
He's not at the beach.
G.I.
It's a
Jolie.
rendezvous.
Are you ever going to read this again, G.I. Jolie?
I'm gonna rip out the pages, or print them out, whatever comes first, of the Kingpin in a Speedo.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna start myself a little scrapbook because it seems like that his like, you know, his outfit of the day every day. So just make myself a little vision board and aspire to be great. So no, I don't recommend this. Or
Right.
nor am I going to be reading it anytime soon.
Joshua Mervell, do you recommend this issue? Are you going to read it again?
No, I don't think I'll ever revisit this. No. I think I'll just leave it at that. No.
All right, so that wraps up Al Milgram's run. He's actually been on this for a long time as a penciler and inker, and now as a writer. This is his last issue as a writer. He'll be back in some form or another in future issues, but this is the end of his run. We'll be getting to the new regular writer soon. We're not going to spoil who it is, though. But yeah, after this, we'll see a few fill-ins. Again, like we said, Marvel Team Up is done, so Web of Spider-Man is coming very soon. And Amazing Spider-Man is business as usual. So that's what you got coming up in future episodes of Here Comes the Spider-Cast. We want to thank G.I. Jolie for joining us again. Mm-hmm. And she's on to the next thing. And we want to thank Bex Luthor for joining us. Bex Luthor, I hope you can join us every week.
I work next Wednesday, so.
Okay, so this is your last episode. All right. Thank you for joining us.
I will try. I love coming out here and talking about Spider-Man.
We're gonna cut to Becca like being sad on a rooftop.
Yeah, there you go.
In full leathers, and nobody wants to talk to me.
Oh.
Full leathers and a wig.
Yeah.
As usual.
You know, just my casual wear.
And a big pig pen like dust bubble around you.
Oh, obviously, because I'm filthy.
No.
Mike's words, not mine.
No, what I just said makes up for the opening intro. So hope all is good now. But anyway, okay. So anyway, Josh, you can take it from here.
Yeah, we want to thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. It really helps when you leave us a review over on Apple Podcast, or if you can drop us a line at Twitter at HCT. Did I say that right? At HCT Spidercast. It really helps when you guys let us know what you think about the issues that we're reading and what you think about the podcast itself. We definitely want to keep that conversation going.
That's right. So until next Monday, Spider friends, go for it!